David Bowie is celebrated as a chameleon of rock. Ziggy Stardust, Heroes, his Berlin trilogy, The Thin White Duke, Black Star. Throughout his career, he has been a visionary who redefined music, fashion, and performance art. His career spans decades of groundbreaking creativity. But before all of this, there was the Laughing Gnome. This song, unfortunately, is destined to get stuck in your head the moment you hear it, leaving you to wonder how could one of the greatest musicians of all time create something so painfully awkward and utterly embarrassing? This is the story of the quirky, unfortunate song, The Laughing Gnome. We'll explore how it came to be, its polarizing nature, and the bizarre ways it has resurfaced throughout Bowie's career, including, in true gnome fashion, some good old mischief in the mid-90s.
In the very beginning, you know, I'm amazed that I got away with what I did. I had nobody, because they never had any better ideas for me. They just said, well, yes, all right, we'll put that out then.
Hi, I'm Andy Fenstermaker, host of Poetic Wax, a weekly music history series and now audio podcast where I dig into the record collection I've been building since the 1990s and explore the sometimes little-known history of a band, album, or song from within. I've been listening to my collection from beginning to end, and earlier this year, when going through my Bowie section, I stumbled upon The Laughing Gnome. And I hate this song, but it sparked my curiosity. How did it come to be, and why? To truly understand the reasoning behind The Laughing Gnome, we need to revisit David Bowie's early years. Born David Robert Jones in 1947, Bowie grew up in post-war London. His fascination with music and art began early, fueled by American rock and roll and jazz.
The first thing that meant more to me than anything else in the world was being told that just newly opened in our area was the first art school for 11 to 12-year-olds, which was like an experiment in the south of England. And the guy who initiated that was a guy called Owen Frampton, who was Peter Frampton's father. And he thought it would be worthwhile that anybody that showed any kind of artistic inclination should be able to be trained from a younger age. I thought, I can go to art school at 12. I jumped at it.
In the mid-1960s, Bowie was still finding his artistic voice. At this point, he wasn't yet David Bowie, cultural icon. Instead, he was a struggling musician, moving between bands and labels in an attempt to break into the music industry. By 1967, Bowie had adopted his now famous stage name, partly to avoid confusion with the Monkees' Davy Jones, and he was experimenting with various musical styles. His early works leaned towards folk and British music hall, a genre inspired by cabaret and vaudeville. One of Bowie's major influences of that era during this period was Anthony Newley, known for his theatrical performances and whimsical songwriting. Newley was a popular figure in the UK, and Bowie admired his blend of humor and drama, and traces of this influence can be heard throughout Bowie's early songs. Bowie himself described The Laughing Gnome as a playful homage to Newley's style. From its Cockney-accented puns to its over-the-top delivery, the song fully embraces the novelty genre, a niche that Bowie would quite quickly outgrow. Bowie recorded The Laughing Gnome in early 1967 at London's Decca Studio for the Darum Records label. The track features a simple arrangement of acoustic guitar, percussion, and a touch of orchestral backing. But the real star of the song was its attempt at humor. The lyrics tell the story of Bowie meeting a cheerful, wisecracking gnome. The gnome's voice, sped up to a cartoonish pitch, delivers a series of groan-worthy puns. The production included some of the era's more experimental techniques. Sped-up voice was achieved by manually altering the tape speed, creating the distinct chipmunk-like effect that defines the song. Bowie performed both his own vocals and the gnome's voice, an early showcase of his flair for theatrics.
Yeah, what's that clicking noise?
The Laughing Gnome was released on April 14, 1967 is a standalone single. At the time, Bowie and his team hoped the song's novelty charm would resonate with British audiences. It didn't. The single was a commercial failure, failing to chart in the UK, and critics dismissed it as lightweight and uninspired. And Bowie's reputation as a serious artist took a little bit of a hit. The song's poor performance reflected a larger struggle in Bowie's early career. Despite his undeniable talent, he was having difficulty standing out in a competitive music scene. In the same year that the Laughing Gnome debuted, you had groundbreaking albums like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and The Velvet Underground and Nico, both redefining popular music at the time. A lighthearted, somewhat annoying novelty track simply couldn't compete. You'd think that would be the end of the Laughing Gnome, but it wasn't buried in time as you might hope. The story continues in 1973 and again nearly 2 decades later. Fast forward to 73, and David Bowie's fortunes had changed dramatically. With the release of The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and The Spiders from Mars, Bowie had become a global superstar. Songs like Starman and Suffragette City had cemented his place in rock history. But with fame came renewed interest in Bowie's earlier work, and that included, of course, The Laughing Gnome. Recognizing an opportunity, Darum Records re-released the single in September of 73. This time, it was a commercial success, reaching number 6 in the UK charts. The track's newfound popularity wasn't due to its artistic merit, definitely not that, but rather to Bowie's skyrocketing fame. Fans eagerly sought out and bought anything associated with his name, even a novelty song he had recorded years earlier and was freaking annoying.
Not only the young have come to ogle at Bowie, so have members of a pensioners club from Newcastle.
They said he was coming round the back. They said he was coming round the back. I've been waiting for ages to see him. 9 o'clock.
Why are you so upset?
He's smashing.
It's as good as a show to us. We've never seen anything like this before.
Haven't you?
No.
And now we must go forward between 15 and 20 years later. By 1990, Bowie's career was at a crossroads. Having spent 2 decades redefining music and art, he was ready to take a nostalgic look back. To celebrate his legacy, Bowie launched the Sound and Vision Tour, a global event meant to showcase his greatest hits.
Now back to Hearing Pictures, David Bowie's Sound and Vision, with our host, Timothy White, and his special guest, David Bowie.
We just heard Sound and Vision, the song that is the title of your 1990 tour.
But Bowie had a twist in store. For the first time, fans could vote on the set list. Using a phone-in ballot system, audience had the opportunity to request their favorite songs.
It's really unique. I heard this afternoon for the first time. We're going to do it with a phone. Yeah, I know. Well, it's 1990. Who came up with that idea? I think the production people thought it would be a great idea, because I said, what do I do? I mean, what songs do you think people would really want to hear? And they said, well, ask them. And I said, yeah, I'll ask them. And they said, easy, set up a phone line, have them phone in and say what their favourite songs are.
And Bowie promised to honor the results. You can see where this is going, can't you? It was a brilliant idea designed to engage the audience and bring them closer to the music, but Bowie didn't anticipate how one song from his past would nearly disrupt the entire project.
I can guess about 10, but after that, I really don't know. I really don't know whether they'd want Putting Out Fire with Gasoline or Stay or, you just don't know what kind of songs they want.
Enter NME, the legendary British music magazine. Known for its irreverent tone and playful attitude toward the music industry, NME saw an opportunity for mischief in its own right. While fans were busy voting for heroes and space oddity, the magazine launched a campaign, an all-out ambush, to push a very different song to the top of the ballot, The Laughing Gnome. And now, this is no small endeavor. NME ran features encouraging readers to vote for the 1967 novelty track, framing the campaign as a hilarious way to prank one of the most serious and celebrated artists of all time. The campaign quickly gained traction, fueled by NME's devoted readership and Bowie fans with a taste of humor. For many, voting for the Laughing Gnome was an ironic act, a way of playfully reminding Bowie of his quite humble beginnings. Others genuinely found joy in the song's absurdity and thought it deserved a moment in the spotlight. But they were fools. The campaign snowballed, with thousands of fans submitting votes for the gnome-centric tune. When Bowie learned about the campaign, he reportedly found it amusing at first. Ever self-aware, Bowie recognized the humor in the situation and appreciated fans' enthusiasm. But as the votes continued to pour in, the possibility of the Laughing Gnome making the tour's setlist became suddenly very, very real.
What's this Laughing Gnome following you around all the time? Because it keeps on coming up everywhere.
Well, everybody's got one. And that's mine. Well, you can't escape it, you better play it.
Now, your first
if that is on the list, I'm going to be terrified.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Looking forward to the video effects combined with the Laughing Gnome there. Now, talking about your first hit.
We'll hire Jim Henson to...
Yeah.
Despite the campaign's momentum, Bowie ultimately drew a line in the sand. In interviews, he addressed the NME campaign directly, acknowledging its success while firmly ruling out the possibility of performing the Laughing Gnome. In classic Bowie fashion, he responded with wit. When asked why he would include the song, he quipped that some things are best left in the past. Bowie hinted that while he appreciated the humor, the song simply didn't fit the spirit of the tour. The NME campaign may not have succeeded in getting the Laughing Gnome on stage, but it proved the one thing. Bowie's legacy is more than just his masterpieces. Even his quirkiest, most unconventional works have strange power, however absurd they may be.
Tonight I thought I'd do something a little bit different, so I'm going to play a new composition for you that I think you may enjoy. It's called Requiem for a Laughing Gnome. It's for recorder, and it has some choreography that was that I picked up from an Navajo Indian that I met last week in the Croydon chapter. It's in 4 movements. Probably I should begin with the first movement. Thank you. Put your clothes on, Sooty.
In the decades since its release, the Laughing Gnome has become a bit of a cult favorite among some very strange Bowie fans. While some, like myself, consider it an embarrassing footnote, one that is ridiculous and best left in the past, others appreciate its playful charm and historical significance. I mean, I can appreciate the historical significance, but charm? No. Come on. Bowie himself had a complicated relationship with the song. Though he often dismissed it as a lightweight novelty, he also recognized its place in his artistic journey. In later interviews, Bowie admitted that the song reflected his willingness to experiment and take risks, even if the results weren't always that successful. It's not one of my proudest moments, but I don't regret it. Today, the Laughing Gnome is a reminder of Bowie's early struggles and his boundless creativity. While it most certainly will never rival Space Oddity or Heroes or any of the other greats in cultural impact, it does remain a part of Bowie's legacy, no matter how ridiculous you think it may be. I mean, some people absolutely did love it, though. In the UK, it was certified silver with that 1973 reissue, with 250,000 copies sold, which, according to NME editors Roy Carr and Charles Murray, left Decca Records as, quote, about the only unembarrassed party. If you like these deep dives into music history of bands, albums, and songs, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and little notification bell. Next, check out the story of Bowie's Andy Warhol and what the icon thought of it on their first meeting when Bowie sat down and played it for him.